Hello and welcome to Seismic Cinema, a special episode coming up. So I'm Colin from Seismic Cinema and I'm joined by Paul. And it's not the Paul that it would usually be, it's Paul from SP Filmviewers.
Hello there, and thank you for letting me be on your show and in replacement of your regular scheduled Paul, I suppose.
Don't worry, I'm sure you'll definitely be an upgrade on Paul. And he will hear this, so I'll be getting one for that. So no, thank you for coming on. So Paul has a busy week of, I don't know what Paul does, but he's making some upgrades to his house, and we'd made some changes to our schedule recently, and I was quite keen to look at today's topic, and you were so kind to jump on and join us, or join me.
Mm-hmm. No, so I'm happy to be there and fill in the gap, and it's kind of like a good conversation piece I'd like to actually have with somebody about how I got started, or me and Sophie and my show got started, and also discuss with how you guys got to where you were beginning.
Well, we haven't made it very far yet, but yeah, that's that's good. So yeah, so what the focus of this podcast is going to be about is essentially, as you were saying, how we both, and Paul as well, how we got into podcasting, like why we had the urge to do it in the first place, and what were the steps. And I thought this might be something that could inspire people who think, I'd like to do that, because literally anyone can do it with the technologies that are out there. And I thought it'd be nice for people to hear it from someone like us, who are still really early in the game and struggling for views most of the time, but still enjoying it. And I just thought it'd be something a bit different to talk about, rather than movies and films, and actually talk about how we got to this point.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. As much as I love to talk about films, it's nice to have a change of scenery with a discussion of what the podcasting journey is like. Yeah.
So something we always like to do, because it's mutually beneficial. Do you want to just start off by giving an overview of your channel, just what you guys do? Maybe not in too much detail, because it'll be spoilers for the episode, but just a wee quick plug at the start.
Yeah. So basically what our show is about essentially is I kind of force my partner to check out some films that she hasn't seen before, and there's quite a lot. And that's normally each week we kind of go through the various different films, and then more up to date standards, it's more about things that we like on and off between things that I haven't seen as well. So that's the kind of basis of the show. So it's kind of like taking turns of like discovering new films ourselves as a pair, and then ones that she's coming into blind from completely. So yeah.
Okay. And where can people check you out? What platforms are you on?
Yeah, so we are mostly on the audio platforms, like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podchaser, and all that. But pretty much anywhere you get your podcasts from, really. We do have YouTube, but that's kind of a little bit, not to say dead, but it's kind of like it's just a lot easier for us to put the audio formats out there for everybody to listen to enjoy the content.
Yeah. Cool. I made a note of Podchase, actually. We're not on that, so I've made a note of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think there's still going quite strong. I think it's the one with the yellow symbol, I think, and I normally see like people popping up on there saying like we're number so and so in the charts of the indie podcasts or the comedy podcasts and stuff. I think it's like, I'm not sure how it's ranked exactly, but it's something kind of like shout out anyway, just in case like people do listen on that platform. So
we use Good Pods, and it sends like a weekly update of like rankings and stuff, and the same as you, I'm not quite sure how they work those out.
Yeah. We're on Podbean is the platform that we host the show on, and that's the RSS feed, and that kind of gives like insight into like the stats and stuff, like how many listens we have and so forth.
Yeah, it's always quite interesting to look at the statistics and where your viewers are coming from and the age range, etc.
Yeah, it's also funny. It's like, why is this not episode not getting as many as I thought it was going to be, or those kind of you get that sort of what's the word? Um, just like you think, oh man, what is the word I'm looking for here? Um, oh, I'm blanking.
I'm sure it'll come back.
Yeah, sorry.
No, it's okay. Other Paul forgets his words all the time, so
Yeah.
must be a Paul thing. So I'm actually quite fascinated. My fiance is notoriously difficult to get to watch films, so I'm really excited to hear how you guys get started and hear your story. So if you don't mind going first,
Yeah,
then I can
absolutely. Yeah.
share. We can just kind of see where the commonalities are.
Yeah. Oh, and just remember the word. It was anxiety. The anxiety of going through like, why isn't this getting as much as a thing? And like you looking at the stats and thinking, what can I do? What could I have done better? And all that kind of stuff. So yeah. Anyway,
I don't think there is any real. I don't think there is any real secret sauce. I think it's just a combination of different factors.
yeah, that's it. So when the idea of the initial starting of the podcast kind of came about was it wasn't so much well, obviously lockdown was a thing, and a lot of people, a lot of podcasts kind of came about from that because they were like, oh, kind of bored, let's do something to occupy ourselves at home because we can't go out and stuff. Um, it was just, I think, the idea of it really was just from listening to other podcasts in the first place, though, before lockdown really hit hard. But the inspirations for our or what I found from listening to other shows was the Cinemile. I don't know if you've heard of that show.
Yeah, I've heard of them.
Which is like where a married couple just like walk home from the cinema. They go to see a film in the cinema when obviously before lockdown was a thing that was more common for them to do that, or they do it at home. And do like a talk like, oh, are you excited to see the film, like the new Marvel, whatever, and stuff like that. And then there's a little like trailer or something, audio trailer in between that, and then they come out and just literally walking
Yeah,
down the road with all the background noise and everything going on, all the cars walking by and everything, and
yeah,
just like going the honest thoughts and opinions on that. So that's like, I mean, like if anybody can just do that, that's really easy to do, and they're kind of like they've got a good chemistry, obviously, because they've married for so long and they kind of know that
yeah.
they have their little quirks and stuff. And another show that also did inspire me more like a collective, like more like in-house thing, or like just friends meeting up, was Skip to the End podcast. I don't know if
I've
you've
not
heard
heard
that.
that. No.
No, they're quite a big one, but they've kind of like well, I say a hiatus. They come back for like special episodes now, but they were going for quite a while, but they're really popular. And there's still are. So obviously, like I go back to the episodes that I haven't listened to. There's quite a lot they've done, and they like go for like 2 hours long. They all these segments and everything. It's really like thought out and structured.
Yeah,
But again, it was like the chemistry they had, like the banter they had, and everything was just like, wow, this is like you can just talk about stuff like this with like your best friends basically. And so my idea came from the fact that because I am a big film nerd and I've got a lot of films, particularly physical media, on my shelves, and
yeah,
it's always like a weekends, like finding something to watch. And I thought, why don't we like make a thing of this where I'm introducing Sophie to films that she hasn't seen before,
hmm
and then just recording her thoughts on it, because there's probably she might have a completely different perspective on what I might have, particularly if it's something that's like considered a classic.
yeah,
That that yeah, and she just have something interesting to say about it, than rather than just like, oh, why did they do that, or I don't understand. Like this is so confusing or something. Those kind of things. I think it's more like for a comedy value, really.
yeah,
In all fairness, but there's been things where she's kind of taken me by surprise. Is like what her scoring is. Obviously, we do like a ranking system on ours and everything like that. That we do, but But it's been a lot of fun going through that because, like I say, it was mainly focused on what she hasn't seen. But then this year, it's been more of a case of going on to like, well, there's a lot of things I still haven't seen, and it's kind of like balancing that as well and making it a bit fairer on neutral ground and essentially. So there's a good
Do
aspect
you
to it.
feel like so you've because we're the same. I feel like your channel evolves by week, by day, by month. Like
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
so, it's interesting that it's went from what she hadn't seen to what you hadn't seen. So, is she catching up on you a bit, or still a way to go?
No, there's still ways to go. Yeah, there's still a lot of things that that are on the shelves and streaming services, and it's like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. And it's like sometimes it is finding the time also to kind of like, we know life gets in the way and stuff like that,
Yeah.
especially the really long films, like say like we haven't covered like Goodfellas or anything like that, like things that are like nearly 3 hours long and stuff. It's like, sitting down, finding the time to do that and then do a like a lengthy, in-depth discussion about it is it's not always easy, but sometimes it's kind of like things that are like hour and a half or things like half the time, but it's still good to kind of like get her thoughts on certain things because, like I say, she's got their own thoughts and feelings on them, and it's always entertaining and still enjoy doing that kind of thing. But and I say we did kind of start off. More me because I do a lot of the legwork. But in the initial stages, when I first had the concept, the idea was to do a like animated like talking heads on YouTube. Because I'm like an animation background and I still do animation in my daily job.
Yeah.
But so the little head caricatures that I drawn up for the thumbnails and stuff, and you can see those all on that I create all those in the Spotify and Apple Podcast thumbnails that you
I
see
saw
on
that
them.
on your.
Yeah.
I think I saw that on your YouTube. Did you be like 2 minute clips on there?
Yeah. So it was like the first one we ever did was Kiki's Delivery Service. That was kind of like a trial run. I think it was like 2019, just before rolling to 2020 when COVID hit really hard. But but it was like a really short review of the film, and I think because even with like just like doing the simple head switch animations, like expressions and stuff like you sometimes see on YouTube videos, it was still quite time consuming as well to do. It's like, so as much as I'd love to have continued doing that, it was going to take, especially if it was a long actual full length episode, it would still take a long time to actually put the effort and animation. It'd be like an episode a month. Basically, I felt like, with day-to-day jobs and stuff. If it was a full-time, in the dream, if we're doing a podcast stuff full-time, then it probably wouldn't be so much of a problem. But it was kind of like it's just so much easier just to do an audio format, and that's kind of what stuck with doing and still enjoy doing that way because it's just so much easier to get one out every week. And with that, obviously editing down the long pauses or like ums and ahs and all that kind of stuff that comes with having a conversation, but in real life. But it's still good to do.
That's why we don't bother. We just let we just let the pauses be awkward. I've still got quite a few questions just about the early stages.
Yeah.
Like Sophie, how easily was she convinced to do it? Did you have to wear her down a bit, or was she right away?
No, she was on board pretty much from the get go. Really, she's very supportive of what I like to do, and the same for her. Really, I always be supportive in whatever endeavors she wants to do. Sometimes she does question like, "What the hell did you make me watch?" On some occasions, but I think that makes for good content, really, especially if it's something like so bad it's good, or those kind of films, or really shocking films. Like, what the hell? Yeah.
Well, me and Sophie have quite a lot in common because our podcast has become a wee bit of not the whole way through, but quite often we'll look at films that I probably should have seen that I haven't seen. So ours is actually quite similar in some ways. And we can touch on that later. So yeah, I've managed to get my fiance onto one podcast. It was just after we got back from getting engaged in Paris, and we did a top 10 rom-coms as like
All
a
right.
celebration of getting engaged.
Yeah.
But
That's nice.
she decided to get quite shy just as the cameras were rolling. So she spoke out the camera view, and then she kind of came. She would like appear every so often. We still did it, but it wasn't quite what we had in mind.
Okay.
But still, it was still nice to have her on. So
Yeah,
wouldn't
yeah.
complain.
Yeah. So I take it that you're more about the like this like on a video format rather than just having an audio aspect. Then I
Well,
guess because that
we've had a bit of a journey with it. So we started off just using Anchor, doing
yeah.
the audio only, and I'd always quite wanted to try out the YouTube, and I actually guested on a football podcast a few times. It's a Rangers one called Rangers Rabble, and they use StreamYard, and then it got me thinking we could do that because you can download a video and an audio file. But what we do is you can just download the video file, and Anchor just takes it and takes the audio automatically.
Okay.
So essentially, we record these and then we post the audio on Anchor, which puts it out onto Spotify and the likes, and then we post it onto YouTube. So we found that was like kind of two birds with one stone.
Yeah, I mean, it did. I listened to forgive me, I can't remember what the episode was, but it was the first time when I played an episode on Spotify where there was a video that popped up in the bottom right hand corner. I'm thinking, well, this is weird because I've know everything you normally play through Spotify is just an audio format, but then there's like this video with the people. Like, oh well, this took me by surprise. Never, so I'm guessing that's what the through Anchor does then to do
Yeah,
that.
it's just amazing how accessible it is, and that's something I'd like to any budding podcasters listening in. It's totally free. Like we pay for StreamYard because if we didn't, we'd have to live stream every video.
Yeah.
But by paying £20 a month, and basically we alternate. I'll pay it 1 month, Paul will pay it the next. So basically, essentially costs us £10 a month to do what we do.
Yeah,
and that is such an accessible thing compared to how it would have been when podcasting first came about.
Yeah, I say I use Podbean to host our show. That's kind of just like a set price for the annual year or whatever it was. But I think that worked out. I think it still is the kind of like the cheapest premium, if that's the right term, because obviously like Anchor and stuff, like they do ads and stuff, and I forget what the other ones are, but there's various different ones whether it's free. But I don't know in terms of like what is your own content and like is the limitations on that, because it's always been like I've heard things about that being a thing that can occur, like it's free but it isn't because you don't actually own the rights to your stuff. Is that true, or have you found
there is something that, to be honest, we're quite a while away from monetizing, so we're not really that fussed right now. As things move on, that could be something that we have to think of a bit more, but right now it's just quite a convenient way to get things out. But that might be something we need to consider in the future.
Yeah, I guess I don't know if it is when they start asking, you're getting money for it. I'm guessing they probably come to target you down, like, we want to cut or something. I don't know, but yeah.
I'm sure if and when that happens, we'll deal with it. So, talked about the initial concept for your show, things that Sophie hadn't seen that you had. She was on board with it. So, talk us through how you put the pieces in play in terms of your first episode and getting it out there, and like how your first episode went in the early days. Maybe, sorry, just to say, how long have you been doing your podcasts? Like, when did you start doing it?
Yeah. So the very first episode was just before, I think it must have been September 2019 for that very first episode, which we launched initially on SoundCloud, I think it was. because I think it was like, oh, this is kind of free and it's just easy for everybody. I know what that is, because obviously I wasn't really in tune with like where the main host sites were and all that kind of stuff before,
Yeah.
like Podgain and Buzzsprout and all that kind of stuff. Not too much research into that, and then I say like released the audio that's on Spotify, I believe, is also on, I say, from uploaded on YouTube, and there's a little clip of that. So that's like from the very early days. That's how we kind of structured the show and everything. And that's how it was edited down into these very short segments. The next one after that was Ghostbusters. So that was
Nice.
around Halloween. That was like the one we did after that. And then it was right, okay, let's test in the waters a little bit. Do you enjoy it, kind of thing? So it's kind of like a couple of pilot episodes, I suppose, of the show, and then it's kind of right. We'll start in the new year, like doing a proper thing, and it was still hosting on SoundCloud at that point, but I then realised that there's for the free one you had to upgrade to like obviously for more space on the servers or whatever to unlimited uploads, to pay a certain amount. So it's like, now, okay, well, I'll do a bit more research into where I should go to, and like I say, Podbean seemed to fit the bill really for paid services, and feel like this is a good setup and good place to host the episodes, and then it's kind of just gone from there. And then I think I'm right in thinking that the very first proper episode we did was Reservoir Dogs.
Okay.
Yeah. And then we've kind of just carried on from there, really. And we've, say, we're on 130 odd episodes now. With obviously, we've done like things like themed months, like Monster March was something I kind of just came up with as part of the thing, because I like monster films. So roping Sophie into that, and she's like, "Oh, here we go again," type of thing. I went for 3 months now. She said, like, this is the last. This year's was the last one. She said, "I'm not doing anymore because we have a different idea of something else to do." And then like the other things like birthday specials, it's kind of like a combination of things like film that neither of us have seen. One that one of us, like me, for my birthday would be something that you haven't seen, like normal. But if it was Sophie's, then it would be something that I hadn't seen. We've done a couple of those episodes, but obviously there's less films that I haven't seen that Sophie's seen. Mostly like chick flicks, rom-com type of films, to be quite honest. But things like that, and then the one that we've both seen, so it's kind of like a review of something like La La Land was, for example, was one of them we did that we've both enjoyed, and it's kind of like a reflection back on from when we first saw it all those years ago or whatever. Yeah.
What you have is a really clear niche, because something we find is we're quite often too general. Like, it could be any film, any show.
Mm-hmm.
You've got very clear like things Sophie hasn't seen, things you haven't seen. That's something that we're striving to. I've actually said to Paul before, I said it should literally just be kind of like what you do, not to copyright, but like us watching things that I shouldn't have seen because I quite famously haven't seen quite a few things. I enjoy that. Like, I found doing the podcast encourages me to watch things I probably wouldn't have had the time to, or wouldn't have had the notion to watch before.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, it's good to broaden your horizons with stuff like that, I think. Even myself, like I say, like there's a million and one things I've on like a list, like a mile long, of things that I should have seen by now. Like there was something Silence of the Lambs was something I'd kind of like I hadn't seen for the longest time, and I've only recently covered an episode on that this year, and things like that. But in terms of, obviously, like there's a lot of world cinema as well, Asian cinema and stuff like that. I'm really intrigued by, and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, the idea of having something that's, like, oh, somebody hasn't seen this and they're watching it first time, I don't think it's like I'm the pioneer of that by any means. But I mean, I've discovered other people. I don't know if more recently, I suppose, but through like social media platforms and stuff. But there's a lot of people, like, especially like horror things like getting my girlfriend to watch horror films for the first time and those kind of things is something that kind of keeps cropping up. But I don't think there's probably a million one other channels or podcasts who have done a similar thing long before me. So it's yeah.
I feel like that's the hard part of, because we only started our podcast is it February this year?
Oh, okay.
January,
So, yeah.
January or February, and not just us, but yourselves as well. Like we're getting into this when there's so much competition out there. Like if you'd been like 10 years ago, that's probably where a lot of the big YouTubers now, big podcasts,
exactly,
would be started.
Yeah, it's not gonna lie, it's kind of annoying when you think on some of these people, how have they done it? Like what, like if I'd done this 10 years ago or 5 years ago and the market was just prime to be doing this kind of stuff, then I'd be a billionaire, like, or whatever, kind of like with a million hits and stuff.
But you never know. That's something that's quite interesting. We want to keep quite kind of near the start of the journey here, but if you don't mind me asking, how did the early views go on your early podcasts?
Yeah, no, I'm not gonna lie. It was obviously a bit of a struggle trying to find a footing with everything, just like everything. I think it was kind of steady away now. I wouldn't say we're like in record numbers even at this point, really, but I think we've built up a nice little niche with like friends and other friends of my friends, sorry, and like friends of the podcast, kind of through networking and stuff like that. So it's steady away. I'm just plugging away. I'm just enjoying. Really, I think as long as if you're too focused on numbers and stuff, then it kind of like you got to think, is it a bit of a chore? Is it worth doing? Type of thing. If you're having fun, then I guess it's all it's all for a laugh. It's a hobby thing, but obviously we all do. Like, if we could make our hobbies our day job or whatever, like a thing of source of income, then that's fantastic. But you just got to take it for what it is and just go with it. Yeah.
So is that where you're at with it? It's a hobby you enjoy, but if you had the chance,
yeah. I think absolutely, yeah. In an ideal world, yeah, but I think I'd have to be more eloquent with my words and everything like that, and like more critical. I mean, I try to on the show, but it's trying to like other reviewers like on like the Empire podcast and stuff. I mean, obviously they have a lot of laughs anyway and on that and with everything, but they kind of give like really deep things and people listen to obviously they've been going for years. They've started as a magazine and then they've launched the podcast, so it's been going for forever. But yeah.
It does really develop your ability to speak. I know that sounds stupid, but to use your words, because I'm a business teacher at a secondary school. So when I went into this, I said to Paul, I was like, I don't want us like swearing on the podcast because I wouldn't want it to reflect badly on me.
Sure, yeah.
And it's amazing how it does force you to really dig into your vocab and express yourselves, because if you're just in a general conversation, it might run differently.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, I mean, in terms of trying to filter out stuff, I think there's now and again when we kind of drop swear words in unintentionally. Sophie's actually more bad at that than I am, to be fair. But yeah, it's kind of just like, well, should you keep it clean and stuff? But obviously, like, especially if you've just explained like you're a business teacher and your kids might listen to the show and you're like, oh, Mister. Think it said that, and it's like, oh, that shows up bad for you, doesn't it? So it's kind of got to be careful.
Keep it really legit. And it's
yeah.
I don't promote it. It's a big thing for me. I don't promote it in the school. If people were to find it, I can't do anything about that, and I've made sure I'm not saying anything outrageous. It does restrict growth a bit because you could not quite easily, I don't agree with it, but you could share it and then it would get the subscribers up, it would get the viewers up, but it wouldn't sit right with me. So I'm quite pleased with my prices.
Yeah. I'm interested to know actually, because how like approaching like other people and stuff, like, do you feel like quite confident in terms of like reaching out to people and or potentially being like other guests on other people's shows, because that's what I've kind of found out from doing this a lot, kind of like building my self-confidence a little bit, because I'm quite a shy, reserved person normally, but I'm quite able to just jump on a call like this, for example, and
Yeah,
talk about something I'm quite passionate about, because if I've got something to say about something I care about deeply,
yeah.
then I can talk for ages and stuff, and it's quite easy conversation. But in general terms, for me, normally I'm proper like, I want to talk to you, really, kind of thing, in an every day-to-day conversation. But I don't know if
I,
you've found that for yourself, or
I'm
am I
quite. I'm the kind of person, I'm quite shy around like new people, but if I'm
yeah.
with like my family or my close friends,
Hmm.
I'll be the way I am. But I actually really find my job really helps with this
Hmm.
because I think the pace at which I speak is like the pace I would speak in a classroom, and I kind of feel like I'm explaining a lesson concept when I'm doing
Yeah.
the podcast. And some of our best content, in our opinion, is when me and Paul we get a bit silly and it just becomes a bit of like we're slagging each other. And because we've been friends for so long, those are the ones I really enjoy when you get to a point where it just becomes like you're still obviously talking about the film or the show, but it
Hmm.
can like, descend into banter, which is quite good.
Yeah, yeah. So, what in terms of like really big inspirations for you, for example? Then I know I mentioned about mine.
So I started teaching in 2016, and I was living away from my hometown when I was
Hmm.
there, and I really got big into YouTube.
Hmm.
And one of the first, like, I basically stream, like, if I'm getting ready for work, if I'm on a walk, if I'm doing the dishes, I'm streaming some kind of podcast or YouTube. And
Hmm.
just before I delve into our story a bit more, what one of yours do you think I checked out this morning? Do you think you can guess which, or make a random guess at which
Oh,
one I checked
what
out?
what episode? Um,
Give you
no, I
three.
can't.
Give you three chances. Just
Oh,
random ones you've done.
okay. Is it a really well known one?
Yes.
Ooh, okay.
And I actually only saw it for the first time and
Oh,
within
okay.
the last year, I would say.
Okay. Um, Matrix?
No.
No. Okay. Trying to think what we've done. Eternal Sunshine.
No.
That's what I did. No. Singing in the Rain.
No.
No. Okay.
You failed. I watched the Shawshank Redemption one.
Well, really? Yeah. Yeah.
I just kind of flicked down until I found a film like maybe I'd seen quite in the
Yeah.
not too distant past. It's actually my dad's favorite film,
Hmm.
and he mentioned it loads over the years. And it's not a film because I think Sophie was the same. It's not a film you can really get what it's about from the name unless you read.
No, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I bought the DVD,
Hmm.
and yeah, I watched it. So that was the one. So back to yeah, got into YouTube quite big. I'm a massive Star Wars fan, as you can probably guess from a lot of the content on our
Hmm.
channel.
Yeah.
And I discovered. Did you ever come across like Collider? Collider
Mm,
YouTube channel. They do.
oh, I think it rings a bell, actually. Yeah. Thinking about it. Yeah.
So there was a channel. It was when The Force Awakens was about to come out. That's when I
Hmm.
really got into YouTube because I was so excited about a Star Wars
Star
film for
Wars.
the first
Yeah.
time in 2005. And I found a YouTube channel called, the show was called, not the channel, Jedi Council,
Okay.
Collider's Jedi Council. And it was like four guys and I would highlight, I don't know, are you quite into like Star Wars, Marvel kind of stuff?
Yeah. Yeah. Star Wars is more for me, particularly, is obviously the original, like episode 4, 5, and 6 is my main focus of the thing. I've obviously seen the main films, really, and some of the like the Mandalorian and stuff like that on Disney Plus and stuff.
Yeah.
But I mean, interesting enough, like when obviously I saw the Force Awakens, oh, this is going to be great, and everything, and then it was what did annoy me about that was kind of like I felt like it was a bit of retread of the fourth film,
Yeah.
the New Hope, and it's like, okay, right, they've got another chance with the next one, which was the Last Jedi, isn't it? The one after that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was I enjoyed that for a while, and then it kind of took I don't know if your thoughts on it, but it took a real nosedive for the Rise of Skywalker. I don't know.
I'm one of the few people I know that actually does like The Last Jedi. It's not perfect and it's got issues, but in general, I think it is a really well made film. So I'm a fan personally, but yeah, Rise of Skywalker I wasn't a massive fan of.
Yeah, but I also do like the Marvel stuff. I was a big. It kind of dropped off a little bit after Endgame. I think that was like the peak, and then it's kind of
Yeah, I agree.
middle in. Yeah.
But some of the shows have been decent, but the films I don't think have been that great since. So it was Collider Jedi Council. They just did loads of Star Wars news and stuff. And the main guy, a guy called Christian Harloff, he is one of my big inspirations. He's left that studio. There was like a big fallout, and he has his own channel now. So if you're interested in checking them out, it's Christian Harloff. He reviews pretty much everything like Marvel, Star Wars, but all the kind of new films and shows that come out. He's really good. So there's a guy. Have you ever heard of Sean Chandler?
No, I don't think I've no.
So his like talks movies way too much. There's another guy off that Jedi Council called John Campea. So a lot of these ones that did like Star Wars and Marvel, I got really hooked on them, and I always kind of daydreamed. So that was back in like 2016, but I always kind of daydreamed, oh, it'd be cool to do that, but I never really knew how to, or I never really had anyone to do it with, or that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I had a few like behind the scenes attempts. Like I remember when they announced a big batch of new Star Wars films and shows, I basically did a PowerPoint with pictures and I did a voiceover because I've been using like Zoom a lot for meetings for work, and we did a lot of like online quizzes and like just virtual hangouts when we couldn't like see other people.
Yeah.
And I just played about with like a voice recorder, and I basically just gave my thoughts on the new Star Wars shows that were coming out, and I recorded it and I posted it on YouTube, and I actually got 50 views, just that voiceover with the PowerPoints. I did a couple of those, but it sounds really sad. One of a friend basically, in so many words, made fun of like the low production value of that, and I'm quite easily put off by criticism. I know that's not a great thing to have, but I was actually quite pleased with what I'd done just from doing a PowerPoint and a voiceover, and the fact that it had 50 views, and I took a wee bit of a confidence dent from that, and it kind of put me off, like kind of delving into that section. And in the months leading up to starting doing this with Paul, was kind of getting the itch again, and I was kind of thinking, I'd love to have like a YouTube channel. I'd love to get into podcasting, and this bit's quite funny actually. So it was when it's when Spider-Man was all the hype, when No Way Home came out.
Yeah.
And I had a Venom mask from a Halloween a couple of years ago, and I was at this stage. I was scared to put my face out there. I think a big part of it is being a teacher. I was kind of scared to put my face out in a video on YouTube, and that was a big barrier for me. And I remember putting on the Spider-Man mask, and I did just like a ranking of the Spider-Man movies with this mask on because I didn't want to show my face. And I recorded it, and it was absolutely awful. I didn't even make it as far as the Star Wars ones. And so I kind of scrapped that again. But I was thinking about it like every day. Like it became a bit of an obsession that I wanted to do something like this. And Paul, who's not here, has got two big dogs, and we quite often would take them a walk because we live in a seaside town. So we'd take the dogs a walk, and we would always do just random things like ranking things. And we're both quite into football, so we would talk about like our top 11 players of all time or the best Scottish players of all time, that kind of thing. And we're walking back to his house one night after taking the dogs a walk, and I kind of jokingly said, would you be up for like trying out a podcast? Because I'd just seen an advert for Anchor on a YouTube video. I was like, oh, you can just download that, record and post it onto Spotify. That seems really easy. And Paul, you've probably heard Paul in podcasts and spoke to him online. And Paul's got a very dry sense of humor, but he's quite a quiet guy. So when I'd asked him, I didn't really think he would properly consider it. And I was very surprised when he was on board. And as the next few days and the next week went on, I was like, is he proper serious about this? And we went on like more dog walks, we'd speak online. I went round to his house one night and we just started brainstorming both what we would focus on and what the name would be. So it's basically going to be like movies and TV, or it was going to be something football related because that's what we've been talking about a lot.
Yeah.
And then we decided to go for movies and TV. It was just before the Book of Boba Fett came out, the Star Wars show,
Right.
which was our first series of episodes, was reviewing that. And we took so long to come up with the names. We'd be like messaging back and forward using like podcaster name generators, business name generators, etc., etc. And then Paul eventually came up with Seismic Cinema. And have you seen Attack of the Clones, like the prequel movie?
Yeah, I remember it. Yeah. Because I was just funny. I was going to ask you like, how did you come up with the name Seismic Cinema? But I presume it's to do with that.
So obviously know Boba Fett, and then Jango Fett's his dad, who's the one with the silver armor.
Yeah.
So his ship's got these weapons called seismic charges. It's basically the one that makes a really cool booming sound, like goes boom.
Yeah.
But so that's a seismic charge. So essentially, we combine them together, and we cheat a wee bit because a lot of our content is TV shows, but Seismic Cinema I think sounds quite cool.
Yeah, it is. It's alliteration type of thing. Yeah.
And we have had someone from school who's an author on as well, so we dabble into like other media occasionally. But really, that's the origin. I've been obsessed with it for a while. Me and Paul have never really spoken about it. I prompted the idea to him, and then we were so nervous because we did audio first. So I would basically have my AirPods in. I'd be sitting on my couch. Paul would be sitting in his house. And then we would start doing it, and it was like, how do we structure this? Like, we don't do it now, but we used to a lot. Like, there was a lot of ums and ahs.
Yeah, same. Middle. Yeah. We were kind of like, we were kind of as anything, you kind of finding your feet at the beginning with how the show's structured, and so initially when we started was kind of like do we go for beat in the story? That sometimes that went on for too long, and it was like a bit of a chore to edit, especially with a lot of ums and ahs and all that kind of stuff and all that kind of stuff. But I think we kind of just take it as it comes now. Really, like we kind of do, if it depends on what the film is, particularly. But no, more or less, it's kind of like we write down a scroll of notes on some notepads, and then we kind of just trying to go back through what we've written after the fact and like any points and stuff, and it's like just having fun with it. But
it's funny that you mentioned that, actually, because we had that same debate in the first few episodes. Well, our first episode we reviewed the first 4 episodes of Boba Fett because that's the point where we started podcasting, and it was a wee bit like we're just going beat by beat. But there was one episode, it was the finale. We both made quite a lot of notes because we wanted to make sure we were getting our facts straight and not saying anything that wasn't true. And we both mutually agree that episode was our worst. So since then, we've got a loose structure, like our introduction and the kind of things we say at the end. But that was definitely, we don't suit like a script. And I don't think podcasting suits a script either. I think it's better just to be more natural in conversation. Like, we had literally no script for this. This was just, let's talk about what inspired us and how we got into it. And that was it.
Yeah,
and it's almost at 50 minutes, and I feel like the time's by personally.
Yeah, no, it's definitely flown. It's great to talk about this kind of stuff, really. What I would also bring up is like, even like, despite the show that we've got, really, it's kind of like even dabbling. I know like some people do this, but like dabbling with an idea or a concept for another podcast to do. One that I've kind of thought about doing. I don't know what's kind of spurred this on, but I think it came from one of the recent episodes, actually. In fact, I don't know if you've seen any episodes of Digimon.
Yeah,
a long time ago, but It's Sophie brought up a comment in one of the episodes recently, like, oh, why? Because I'm a big fan of Pokemon. And that's kind of like we kind of somehow sprinkle those references into the episodes occasionally, but but Sophie, when she commented, like, I showed her a picture of a Digimon one time in an episode, she's like, oh, what the hell is that kind of thing? It looks really weird. It's not as cute as Pokemon are. So my potential idea for the future, if I have to ask her on board, she may or may not be on board with it, but kind of do like episode breakdowns, so like go into like a television structure or TV show structure of going through the Digimon episodes, like from the first series, and then like going to the second season and series 3, and then that would be it really. But that's kind of like 50 episodes for a season basically, and kind of going just very much shorter than what a TV series would be. I don't know in terms of like when you're going through episodes, how long they run for, but there's probably a lot more to get out of in the Book of Boba Fett or even the Mandalorian or anything like that than there probably is a Digimon episode. But it's an idea to think on. Yeah,
you're probably not that in half an hour. Like,
yeah.
I have ideas sometimes, and even today I was talking to a friend who's just started a college course to ultimately get into teaching, and I was saying we should do a podcast where someone who's been teaching 7-8 years talks to someone who's just about to go into teaching. And I thought that could be quite an interesting concept. And my worry always is, and it's the same when I'm at work as well, you don't want to do too much, because I'm not saying you've not to do that. Obviously,
absolutely,
if you think you can fit that into your lifestyle, but sometimes I worry, like if I tried to do a second podcast, like if me and Paul had a different idea, like would we be able to do that? Would it?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Would you forget about the other one? It's just trying to find that balance, isn't it?
Yeah. I say it's just an idea I've got in my head, but whether it's actually going to come to fruition is another matter. It's like, like say, finding the time to balance between. Got the main one. Obviously, this is the main focus, but this is just like another side project I'd like to go doing. But it's yeah.
I would watch it.
Yeah, cool. Because I feel like, I don't know, Ed. See, you say that I'm watching it rather than audio thing because
listen to it,
yeah. Because I don't know. I feel like that, like that could be something that could work as a YouTube one, for example. Because obviously you got the footage to go along with it, but it's obviously getting hold of footage in an easy format that's not going to get copyright stricken type of thing. Because that's something I was worried about in terms of like when I've seen like a lot of YouTubers that I watch still to this day, and like when they're talking about like the films and stuff, and they're using like footage from films, and it's like, where did you not get copyright strikes? Because that's always like a worry I have, like an anxiety thing in terms of stuff like that. Yeah,
I think there's like I think you can show like a certain amount of footage in a review without it being an issue, because we've had a couple of copyright, not strikes, but claims, because Paul has started using this royalty-free music as part of a new intro, but we were putting in the description where it came from, and it was a royalty-free site. We've not had them like the last 4 podcasts, but there was like 2 weeks in a row where we got a claim, not a strike.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Claims. Yeah, sorry, claims. Yeah. But you just got to be careful with how it's down to what YouTube decides is allowed and what isn't allowed. But yeah,
I've got an idea for a future episode we could do, whether it's on your channel, if you have guests, or on here.
Yeah, we have guests. Yeah.
We should review the Pokemon movie.
We've already done that one. The first one, I presume. Yeah. We have. Unfortunately, sorry.
That'd have been fun. I've got a lot of good memories. Is that the one with Mew in it?
Mewtwo, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Oh, well. Maybe me and Paul can do that. You can come on.
Yeah. I mean, I can talk about that. Yeah. I'd like to talk that again. Yeah, have me as a guest.
I've got a lot of fond memories about Pokemon because I found it all on. I think it was on Netflix, like the original TV series, and I remember watching quite a lot of that.
Okay. They did like a remake of that first movie called, I think it's Pokemon Evolutions Mewtwo Strikes Back, I think it's called. So it's like a up-to-date CGI version of the first movie. I don't know if you've come across that, but
no.
that's what we did in the episode. It's kind of like too much to Sophie's disgust. watched them back to back, and it's like I wanted to do like for the show, it's kind of like a comparison piece, because I don't know when I'd actually because I know I'd just put on the first movie and that'd be the one, but I want to see comparatively, fresh in my mind, what the difference is between the two, and it was there was some differences obviously, but not in just the animation style, but it was just quite interesting to see how the things have changed, I guess, from back in the 90s to now.
Yeah, I've not seen that.
No.
I only watched. I think I tried to start watching Detective Pikachu one day, and I was like, I'm not feeling this. I don't know. There's just something about it.
Okay. Well, funnily enough, we haven't done. That was a episode that I kind of. I think somebody, like a friend of mine, wanted to do a review of like a short movie review for their radio show or something. I chose to do Detective Pikachu, but I never done like an official podcast episode of ours to do that. So if that's something you want to come on in the future to talk about, maybe that'd be something. Yeah.
If you were happy, I'm sure Paul would be delighted to come on as well. It's a big focus for us right now, and it's something I'd like to talk about in a future episode like this, is the power of networking and Twitter.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So what I thought would be a nice way to finish this off is if you could give someone who's wanting to start a podcast or about to start a podcast, if you could give them like some top tips for things you've learned or things to watch out for, or have you got anything like that to mind?
Yeah, I'll do my best, because it is a tough market, and maybe sort of like saturated a little bit now, unfortunately. But again, this is like with everything. But obviously, if you've got a passion and a drive for what you do, and especially if you feel like you've got something of value to bring to people, like you've got a conversation that's worth talking about, and you spin on things is also a good aspect to do with shows and stuff. This goes for YouTube or just like regular podcast stuff. Then just have fun with it and see how it goes. Even just if you want to do a pilot of a test thing and then just send it out to your friends and local people or whatever, and just like put it out there and say, what do you think? If that's good, and like, if you think that was a success, then you just can continue on with it. And then I think the biggest thing is just trying to network as much as possible. That's what I've been trying to consistently do. Even from the beginning, was kind of like trying to find like social groups. Facebook was one where I started out of, like, like searching for like podcast networking, like things like that, really. And just like on Twitter Spaces and things like that. I think it's just quite important and like commenting, even just on people like search topics and stuff, and that's kind of like getting in contact with people and just networking that way to help. Obviously, guest on people's shows is another good way of getting yourself out there as well. But in terms of finding your footing, really, with whatever your content may be, really, I hope that's somewhat useful information. I don't know if that was just me rambling there, but
definitely. Obviously, that's the teacher in me. I put you on the spot with a question. In terms of myself, I would say although we did it, don't overthink. See, in terms of like the name, how your first episode goes, what you're wearing, just like what the way I envisioned it is like you put this on and suddenly everyone's criticizing you or doing this or that, but most people don't care, which is the truth. You obviously wish they did, but most people see it and ignore it. And we found we got more traffic at the start because people were just kind of curious, like, oh, what they doing, like people we know checking things out. But now that I don't even think about the fact that maybe I'm walking through the high street where I live and somebody's listening to it, like, you don't really think about it anymore. Also, I would say is you don't need a lot of money. Like Anchor costs nothing, StreamYard could cost nothing. I'm just on my laptop. I don't have a fancy mic like you do, but that's something we'd like to do one day. And yeah, the networking side of it, I used to find it quite a chore to go on and start talking to people, but I think the more I've got to know and recognize the names and actually have people on, like yourself. It's like it just kind of feels like you're catching up with your friends now.
Exactly. Yeah, that's it. That's more often
Yeah.
than not. It's like, hey, how you doing? What's so and so doing? And it's like, yeah, what have they got to say today? And you're kind of commenting on it. It's like back and forth. It's great. Yeah.
Like I watched a straight to Netflix movie at the weekend. It was called The Weekend Away. It was just about two girls that went to Croatia, and then one of them dies, and it's all about finding it out. And I just posted on Twitter, just checked this film. Like I'm just like sharing things I've watched, and
Yeah.
it's not like I'm doing it for likes. It's just I watched this. I'm just going to tell my podcast friends about it and see what they think. And I like to hear what their views are on like She-Hulk and House of the Dragon and Andor and the shows we're watching.
Yeah.
And it becomes less about fishing for likes and views and more like you do get more likes and subscribes organically than when you're really pushing it.
Yeah. So if you try too hard, that you kind of find that it's not working out. But if you kind of just let it, you might just do a post and you think nothing of it, and then suddenly you get loads of likes on that one. It's like, oh, okay, that's great. Yeah. And it's again organic feedback and stuff like like what's is anybody seen this film? And then normally those ones generally sometimes do get a lot of feedback and stuff. You pose questions, I think that's an idea behind things like what are your thoughts? That's like a lot on YouTube videos, like leave your comments in the below about what you think on this, and it's just that thing. I think it's like programmed into us now, essentially, especially with the social media influences, like to do that.
It's not how you would talk in real life, is it? You wouldn't be like,
no, it's really not. But...
Like, well, I just watched this film. Please text me your comments. Like you would just bring them up, wouldn't you?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So talking about not. Sorry, on you go.
Oh no! I just say it's just a weird world we live in with it, with that how that is. The conversation online is so different from the real world. Yeah.
So talking about not promoting ourselves, let's promote ourselves because it's the end of the podcast. So I know you did at the start, but I believe in the sandwich approach or something like that. You tell them, I don't know. When you're teaching, it's like you tell them what you're going to tell them, you tell them, and then you tell them what you told them.
Okay.
So we call it the sandwich approach. So
right.
if you're up for it, a wee chance.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's great. Thank you. So as I say, our show SP Filmviewers is all about me and my partner Sophie. That's the SP in our
nice.
title. Yeah. So that's where that inspiration came from. I know I didn't bring that up before, but so yeah, we are film viewers and mainly focusing on what Sophie hasn't seen for the first time. So that can be anything like a classic film or something of my personal favorites from my catalogue, or just to get a reaction from a film. And then most recently, as I say, we've kind of like switched up from every other week being something that neither of us have seen, because there's still quite a lot of films I have not watched myself. So we are mostly available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and any other podcast platforms to listen to. We've got a whole sleuth of episodes on there. And then in terms of social media platforms, to reach out to us to see what we're doing in terms of new content and stuff, and all that kind of things, we're under the handle SP_Filmviewers on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, which we sometimes do. Yeah, we sometimes trying to get into that market a little bit. It's a bit like the YouTube thing where it's kind of just posting up like our we do these like snippet of the audio clips, like sample clips from an episode, to kind of plug that, really just an extra boost of from the when we launch the episode on the day, and then like a couple of days later I normally have like an audio thing, or like with the sound waveform thing going on.
Yeah, we've done that. Yeah. We've done that before as well.
Yeah, so that's another means of getting out there as well. Yeah.
Headliner was a website we used for that let us basically make a video out of the audio file. I'm not brave. I made a TikTok account for Seismic Cinema, but I'm not brave enough to use it. I can't bring myself to just put the camera up and just speak, because I don't know what I would say. Anyway,
yeah.
To do something, because this is like a behind the curtains look at podcast, and isn't it funny when you do the plug like say you're by yourself doing the plug, it's like you're literally just speaking into the void. Like it's
That's right. Yeah, yeah, I guess it is. Yeah, yeah.
So talking about speaking into the void, so I'm one half of Seismic Cinema. Paul's not here, but hopefully I'll send this to Paul when we finish, and I'm sure he'll enjoy it. I've really enjoyed the conversation. And we're on a social media. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram as Seismic Cinema, just Seismic and Cinema. And we're on YouTube, and we're on all the other things like Anchor, Spotify, Google Pods, Apple Pods. So if you're liking what you're hearing, like, subscribe, share with your pals. And this is hopefully the beginning of, as other Paul called it, a mini series. So I've really enjoyed the starting point. It'd be quite poetic if we maybe get you back on towards the end for like what the future holds or something. I don't know. I'm just going to see how it goes. We were reviewing all of Andor and all of House of the Dragon. The views weren't going that well, so we decided to leave it. So we just like to be quite organic and see what's going well, and just, you know yourself, you change tact and strategy quite a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But I've really enjoyed this conversation we've had today.
Special viewer at the end.
Oh, hello. What's your name?
That's Buddy.
Buddy. Hi, Buddy.
He was crawling around my feet, so that's why I said, man. So when I end this, I'll still be about in the lobby if you want to have a quick chat before we head off. But I just want to thank you on behalf of myself and Paul for giving up some of your Thursday night to come on and talk about podcasting origins.
Oh, yeah, no worries at all. I've really enjoyed talking about it. It's great. Yeah, thank you for having me.
Well, thank you for those who listened in. Hopefully we've inspired people to take that plunge, and you can reach the heady heights of us in the future.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Thanks.